Mr. Cornelius Smith is going to get up here and tell you, I want to bare my soul, I want to come clean, I want to do all this other stuff. You know I call BS on that hard, because when he tells you that, and he will, because he's testified to it before, that he wants to bare his soul, he wants to make amends. Then ask yourself, why for 4 years didn't he just take a guilty plea and take his life sentence and start making amends? 6 times with interviews, 6 potentially more times with the government, more interviews. The truth doesn't change. You don't have to remember it, you don't have to practice it, you don't have to rehearse it. It is what it is. And this is not the truth. Do this, right? Mr. Govan, stand up. Hold your head up high. Mr. Govan matters. You can't do this to people just for political gain because you got to solve a crime because somebody famous died. It's just wrong. It's all coming down to Cornelius and possibly where somebody's phone might have been. Govan is your peer. He deserves better. We shouldn't be here. High-profile TV cameras or not. Sympathy for a young man who's a musician, whatever he was. Nobody deserves to die. But you don't compound the problem by blaming innocent people for it.
What's up, YouTube family? Welcome back to the channel. As always, I'm your host, Jay. And man, today we definitely got to take a deep dive into this young Dolph situation. Now, the alleged mastermind Hernandez Govan is finally on trial for his actual role in the young Dolph demise. But is he actually going to be found guilty? Well, according to the state, there is enough evidence to actually put him away and prove that case. But according to the defense, Govan was just a bystander and had no involvement in this whole situation. Before we break down opening day 1 statements, y'all make sure y'all subscribe to the channel for the updates. Tap that like button and hit that notification bell so you won't miss a drop whenever we drop. And hit that like button to help the channel continue to grow. Whether you're a fan of trials, young Dolph, CMG, all of the above, tap that like button and help the channel continue to grow. Y'all know the vibes. Grab a seat. We finna dig deep. Y'all ready? Let's dig. Now, today started off with the state introducing the actual evidence and information on what they have on Govan, alleging that he orchestrated, recruited, motivated, and connected the suspects with Big Juke, which actually caused the demise of young Dolph in November 2021. But will the state be able to prove that case beyond a reasonable doubt that Govan is the actual mastermind? Or will this case actually lead to a bigger case due to the money connection that caused young Dolph's life to be taken that day? Let's dig.
2204769. State of Tennessee versus Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, Cornelius Smith, Hernandez Govan, Jamarcus Johnson. Indictment for conspiracy to commit murder first degree, Tennessee, upon their oath, present that Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, Cornelius Smith, Hernandez Govan, Jamarcus Johnson, between June 1st, 2021 and March 1st, 2022 in Shelby County, Tennessee, and before the finding of this indictment, did unlawfully, intentionally, with premeditation, and with the intent to commit the offense of first-degree murder as classified in Tennessee Code Annotated 3913-202 against the person of Adolph Thornton, Jr., enter into an agreement with each other to commit the said offense. That said Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, Cornelius Smith, Hernandez Govan, and Jamarcus Johnson, acting for the purpose of promoting or facilitating the commission of the said offense, and agreeing that one or more of them would engage in conduct which would constitute the said offense. In furtherance of the conspiracy of the said conspiracy, one or more of the parties to the conspiracy committed an overt act, to wit, Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, traveled to 2370 Airways Boulevard and killed Adolph Thornton, Jr. Cornelius Smith traveled to 2370 Airways Boulevard and killed Adolph Thornton, Jr. Hernandez Govan solicited both Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, and Cornelius Smith to kill Adolph Thornton, Jr. Jamarcus Johnson aided in Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop's, hideout and escape after the killing of Adolph Thornton, Jr. a communication between Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, and Cornelius Smith after the killing of Adolph Thornton Jr., and facilitated payments to Cornelius Smith for the killing of Adolph Thornton Jr., all of which is in violation of Tennessee Code Annotated 39-12-103 against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee, signed Steve Morroy, District Attorney General, 30th Judicial District. Count 2. The grand jurors of the state of Tennessee, duly selected and paneled, sworn and charged to inquire for the body of the county of Shelby, Tennessee, upon their oath present that Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, Cornelius Smith, Hernandez Govan, on November 17, 2021, in Shelby County, Tennessee, and before the finding of this indictment, did unlawfully, intentionally, and with premeditation kill Adolph Thornton Jr. in violation of Tennessee Code Annotated 39-13-202 against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee, signed Steve Morroy, District Attorney General, 30th Judicial District.
This entire case is going to come down to the guy with the machine gun that shot off Adolph Thornton. The whole case is going to come down to him and then possibly his girlfriend backing up his story. Remember, Cornelius Smith has made at least 5 different statements to law enforcement over the course of a year where everything changes. He's been met with the prosecution at least 5 or 6 times to go over his testimony prior to testifying here today. So you should ask yourself the question when the judge instructed you, does somebody have a reason to lie? Do they have an interest in the outcome? You are caught red-handed on video, and you're about to see it in a second, taking an AK-47 or lighting it up at a cookie store in broad daylight. He's facing a mandatory life sentence, as I'm going to question him about. And I ask each and every one of you, what would you do if you were facing a mandatory life sentence to get out? Why would you need to make so many different statements if you were telling the truth? Because remember, the truth is the truth. You don't need to practice it. You don't need to remember it. It's the truth. So let's see who the government has gotten in bed with to try to prove their case against Hernandez Govan. Robert? So the man you have to believe is the...
Now that's crazy. They just turned around and, man, broad day. First time they actually showed the actual footage. Look at that. Count the seconds from when Dolph actually got hit. Crazy, man. Like, how'd you beat this?
So the man
How'd you get away from this?
Is the man who's capable of in broad day carrying an AK-47, going into a store full of people, and just, without hesitation, opening fire. And he's the one to tell you that Mr. Govan did this, this, and this. Nothing that he says can be validated. The other thing the government's going to try to talk to you about is cell phone tower records. The expert that the government may call, or if they don't call him, I'll call him, will tell you tower records are inherently unreliable because it's not like on TV. There's a reason why all the engineers from the cell phone providers, T-Mobile, AT&T, specifically writing the letters, they will not hesitate include because of unreliability. The other thing you have to know, and Robert, try this slide, within a 10 square mile area of where all this happened, there are 553 T-Mobile towers. 553 just from T-Mobile. And it's hard to see this because there's so many. There will be more AT&T towers. There will be this essentially over 1,000 towers out there. And what the expert will tell you is, this isn't exact science. Just because your phone pings on a certain tower doesn't mean you were there. See, towers may fill out, and you may have to transfer to the next tower near. All these people live within a couple of mile radius, so of course it's going to hit all these towers. But there is 553 just from T-Mobile within that area where all this happened. They talked to you about conspiracy and how Govan picked these 2 individuals. The state chooses to cherry pick a little bit here and a little bit there from each of the statements. So let me play a 5-second clip about how all this supposedly happened. I'm not saying it happened. I'm not saying Govan is involved in one way, shape, or form. But if you want to believe Cornelius Smith, the AK-47 shooter, and God knows how many other shootings he's done, and you'll talk about it. I want you to listen to this.
It was one day me and Elder was out right, and I wanted some X pills, so I went to Quay House to get the X pills from him, and Juke was over there. And when I walked in, there was one quick told Juke, this little see right here, and my hood. Juke was like, just leave him out alone. First he said, take all the phones outside, you know. He ain't say my phone, he was saying quit phone. I passed my phone to make it feel comfortable. So took the phone outside, Juke was like, he don't holler, hey, get him, he got us. And I can't tell like exactly when it was, but that's what he said.
All right. So the state just told you to your face that Mr. Govan take down 2 desperate people. Cornelius Smith, if you were to believe him, says in his statement, I just happened to be going by Quet's house, Govan's house, to buy some ecstasy pills with my girlfriend. Joke happened to be there. Doesn't say Quet said a word. Joke says there's a hate on everybody, and I got you. And Joke says, take the phones outside while I talk to you. Assuming you believe any of that's true. And the reason I ask you if you think any of that's true is the police never went to question Joke, aka MJ or Yo Gotti, or any of the people with CMG. Never once even tried to do an interview. So this is as plain as day. Joke said do it. Quet didn't say anything. Quet lives in the poorest part of Memphis in Orange County. Sells a few ecstasy pills to make a living and hustles with some sports camera. He's a nobody, and that's why I asked you about the Peters. He's a throwaway that they can blame. Why did we not talk to Joke or anybody else with CMG? Ever. Now, Joke ended up getting killed in 2024, 2.5 years after the fact. Never arrested, never talked to, never interviewed, never pursued, never surveilled, nothing. The judge also told you, when you assess credibility, you need to look at how well do you remember this thing. Cornelius Smith cannot even tell you when he was propositioned to go kill somebody. The shooting happened in November 17, 2021, and the best the police can say is that the shooting were just randomly happened, as Cornelius himself has said, was sometime between August and September, 3 months prior to the shooting taking place. 3 months. He will tell you there's no plan. All he was told by Dirk was there's a price on your head. And that's kind of funny because when the cops, they testify honestly, will tell you there have been multiple attempts on Mr. Dolph's life. Twice in Charlotte, Mount Post, and once in Los Angeles. Everybody in Memphis knew there was a price on their head.
And it is good that he said that because, true enough, there probably was a price on Dolph's head. But from who? The attempts on Dolph's life came from who? Like, make that make sense. CMG. Govan. This little C right here, but he didn't say anything. Make this make sense. You see the look on this attorney's face right here? Look, she looking like a thing. I know we're fucked. Look at this dig.
There's war between PRE and CMG. They were shooting each other. Yo Gotti's car was shot up here. The song 100 Shots came up after one of these things. There's a rivalry going on when people get shooting. The police went through this. They know this. They also pulled YouTube videos where people are openly threatening to kill Dolph. It's in their slideshow. You know what they call their investigation? Operation Cookie. That's how peaceful this whole thing is happening with these folks. I'm sorry, I'm understanding them so furious that we're here as far as the trial goes. So the other thing the government hasn't told you when we talk about first impressions is 4 weeks prior to the November 17, 2021 shooting, nobody called Govan, talked to him, did anything via Justin Johnson or Cornelius Smith. What Cornelius will tell you, which the government didn't tell you, is that morning, it was Cornelius' daughter's birthday. But he gets a call from Justin Johnson and says, I got a car, let's go do something. They get in the car, they start driving around, just looking for somebody to kill. It just happens to see Young Dolph's car going by. And they open fire. And they killed. And the interesting thing, even though nobody communicated with Govan for weeks prior to this, they didn't talk to him that morning. He didn't help him get the car. He didn't help him escape. He didn't tell him what to do. He didn't tell him where to go. He didn't do anything. It was a spontaneous issue between 2 young men that morning. They shot it. And you know why there's no plan? Because they just start calling random people after the shooting. They don't call Govan. They have to go someplace to get bandaged up, as far as that goes. The people that help them, never been charged as accessories to anything. They then get rid of whatever they need to get rid of. They left the car across the street from Govan's house in the middle of the street, in front of the street. So if there's a master plan, that may be one of the dumbest plans you could possibly have if you're going to kill the most important person, most famous person in Memphis, as far as that goes. Again, there were no phone contacts for weeks prior to the shooting, especially in the morning. Govan wouldn't know that the Mercedes was you. The only way anybody finds out is social media blows up right away, and multiple people start calling Justin Johnson, including Govan, who knows him. Because the word's out that Justin may have done this. Trail Ingram is another word to appear. He actually carjacked the white Mercedes and then gave it to these gentlemen to use in the shooting. He's not charged for this case. He's not even charged for carjacking. But he happened to pick up another murder right after this happened, and so that leaves in custody for the other murder that he committed. Perhaps, when making first impressions, you would have wanted to know that. I thought about...
So first and foremost, let's just say, is anybody else with me? Govan, if this is your defense, you are screwed. This is crazy. Nobody else was. Didn't you just introduce him to Juke at the house, but your attorney sat up here and said you said nothing? This incident happened, they come back and drop the car off in front of where? Your house? Across the street from your house, where you live, reside in the poorest part of Orange Mine? Okay. No communication. Psh, wait a minute, they just said he called from the girlfriend's phone for Govan to get his phone that he left in the car from the scene. If this is his attorney, man, this is your defense? I'm gonna just go ahead and say it now. Guilty. Like, hey, long live Flipper. This is a waste of time. You got Smith about to tell on you. The girlfriend about to tell on Smith and corroborate Smith's story about you. Your attorney up here saying it wasn't you, but putting you in the whole position, the whole situation with everything. Boy, if this is your defense, your ass is going to jail. Let's dig. Then look at this. Look how the attorney and Govan, look at their eyes, look at their facial expressions. Look how they looked when they talked about the PRE and CMG back and forth. Watch this.
On Mr. Dolph's life, twice in Charlotte and other folks, and once in Los Angeles. Everybody in Memphis knew there was a price on their head because there was a war between PRE and CMG that were shooting each other. Yo Gotti's car was shot up here. The song 100 Shots came up after one of these things. There's a rivalry going on and people have been shooting. The police went through this. They know this. They also pulled YouTube videos where people are openly threatening to kill Dolph. It's in their slideshow. You know what they call their investigation? Operation Cookie Monster. That's how this whole thing is done.
Wait a minute. 100 shots came up because Dolph got busted over 100 times by CMG. Charlotte, CMG. The people that he's referring to, there was black youngster in them in the video with all they hood fellas, bro, out there with the rags and the straps. CMG. Okay, youngster might not be on CMG terms and saying eye to eye with your guy right now. The people that got arrested for the incident in Charlotte, CMG. When Dolph got shot out in Los Angeles, CMG. Govan is in the house with Juke, but he has no connection. Man, come on, man. Let's go.
I'm furious that we're here as far as the trial goes. So the other thing
Look at that ass.
you talk about first impressions is 4 weeks prior to the November 17, 2021 shooting, nobody called Govan, talked to him, did anything, be it Justin Johnson or Cornelius Smith. What Cornelius will tell you, which the government didn't tell you, is that morning, it was Cornelius' daughter's birthday. But he gets a call from Justin Johnson and says, I got a car, let's go do something. They get in the car and they start driving around, just looking for somebody to kill. They just
Imagine being in a jury and you're hearing a defense attorney come up and say, hey, it was one of their birthdays. So they jumped in a stolen car that somebody else took because they didn't have no money, so they out looking for a lick. The lick just so happens to be, hey, not a home invasion, not a let's go rob the store up the street, let's go hit a dope boy house, a trap, none of that. Let's jump in the stolen car, ride around, and find somebody to kill. Okay. Okay. Hey. Okay. Let's dig.
happened to see young Dolph's car going by, and they opened fire, and they killed him. And the interesting thing is, even though nobody communicated with Govan for weeks prior to this, they didn't talk to him that morning. He didn't help him get the car. He didn't help him escape. He didn't tell him what to do. He didn't tell him where to go. He didn't do anything. It was a spontaneous issue between two young men that morning. They shot him. And you know why there's no plan? Because they just start calling random people after the shooting. They don't call Logan. They have to go someplace to get bandaged up as far as that goes. The people that help them, never been charged of accessory to anything. They didn't get rid of whatever they need to get rid of. They left the car and across the street from Govan's house, in the middle of the street, in front of the street. So if there's a master plan, that may be one of the dumbest plans you could possibly have if you're going to kill the most important person, most famous person in Memphis.
If this attorney ain't said nothing right, I agree with him right there. This was one of the dumbest plans. You know why they didn't go tell everybody? Come on, man. They hit Dolph and went and told everybody. Where do they find these defense attorneys at? Like, see, this is what the boys got shot up, bandaged up. Nobody knew. You trying to say Govan had no contact, no communication? How you get his cell phone back? He gave them the money to go put a tarp on a car that was used, that was parked across the street from his house, that he had no connection, correlation, communication with. But here, leave the car right here. I'm going to get your phone out, meet you and give you your phone, but you got to put a tarp on the car. But he had no knowledge of the situation. Okay. Hey, so far, I'd say the attorney's doing good. Look like he's guilty on 2 of the actual charges that's brought against him so far. Was it 3 or was it just 2? Because if this is the defense, this man is through. It's dead.
As far as that goes. Again, there were no phone contacts for weeks prior to the shooting, especially in the morning. Govan wouldn't know that the Mercedes was used. The only way anybody finds out is social media blows up right away, and multiple people start calling Justin Johnson, including Govan, who knows? Because the word's out that Justin may have done this. Trayon Ingram is another word you'll hear. He actually carjacked the white Mercedes and then gave it to these gentlemen to use in the shooting. He's not charged in this case. He's not even charged with carjacking. But he happened to pick up another murder right after this happened, and so now he's in custody for the other murder that he committed. Perhaps, when making first impressions, you would have wanted to know that. I have people that can cover for me as an alibi. I don't make random phone calls. And so Angela, who knew nothing about this, according to her, picks them up at the location where they're getting bandaged up or being shot, drives them around town, helps them out. Of course, she's not charged. She initially lies and denies everything. The police then come back and said, we're going to charge you if you don't tell us the truth. And so on the 17th of December, 3 days later, she comes back. But what the police don't know at that time is Mr. Cornelius Smith has called 4 of his family members to reach out to Angela to get the story straight. Because he keeps saying on the jail phone calls, find out what she said, find out what she said, find out what she said. And then on the 17th, it comes back, and they're talking to her. And she says, well, we went over to that house sometime in the past, just like we talked about. She doesn't know anybody. She said, I can't think of his name. And the interesting part is, the officers say, is it somebody named Q? And then she says, oh yeah, it's Quet. Remember the phrase Bobby Carter that they mentioned? Bobby Carter also lives on Bradley Avenue. They're good friends with Cornelius Smith, and they buy pills together and do ecstasy pills together. And the other thing Angela Smith says is, Govan brought us the phone after the fact. How was that part of any plan or anything else? They called and said, give me a phone. The interesting thing about that is if it's true and you believe it, there would be fingerprints on the car. The police fingerprinted it, DNA'd it, did everything. Cornelius' fingerprints are there. Trayon Ingram's fingerprints are there. Kirsten Garner, the other guy that worked with Trayon to steal the car, his fingerprints are there. There's DNA in there. There's blood in there. But nothing with regards to Govan. They found the car 3 days after the shooting took place across the street from Mr. Govan's house. Has nothing to do with him, didn't touch it. So if he didn't do that, how does he open the door? And frankly, how do you get the keys to open the door? See, Cornelius doesn't give you the details. Did they lock the car after they left? Where were the keys? He doesn't know about any of that stuff. So tell me how Mr. Govan got into the car and how he did it so beautifully, being dumb enough to take the murder car, one of the most famous people, and say, let's just park it across the street, and then somehow magically wiped his friend's DNA, hair, anything out of that car while he's looking for the phone. You know why that is? Because he didn't do it. What you're going to hear from Trayon Ingram is Trayon Ingram, when he stole the car, left his backpack, his wallet, and some other things in the car, and he had Justin Johnson go get them. You will hear that from Trayon Ingram's own statement with regards to that car. This is why I talk about first impressions, because they always could be misleading, and in this case, patently false. When you cherry pick the evidence that you want to tell you, and then have the cameras rolling on a high-profile case to pressure you to commit a verdict of guilty, is patently unfair. And just because he's a nobody and doesn't have money, like Gotti or Joke, his brother, who never even questioned or charged, he's the fall guy in all this stuff. He didn't do anything. Even if you believe Cornelius, all he says is, I just happened to show up there, and he said, it's a little secret. Joke took over and started doing all the talking. Do you think Batman could pay somebody $100,000 and you'd say, yeah, he's good for it, I don't need any validation, he's good for it? And interestingly enough, Cornelius' story also changes along with Angela's, because initially, we were supposed to be paid $1.5 million. Then after another interview, it became $1 million. Then it became $500,000. Then it became $100,000. Then it became, we're going to split $100,000 between me and Justin Johnson. Then it became, somebody gave me $50,000 in a brown paper bag. Then it became, oh no, I'm wrong about that. It was after I was arrested, somebody gave my lawyer $38,000 in a bag to represent me. That's how many times the story has shifted, as far as that goes. But the one thing that he does say is, after I got the money from Mr. Joke's people, it was understood that he was on that team. Again, Joke never arrested, never talked to, even though he says that's where the money's coming from. That guy doesn't have $1 million or $100,000 or anything like that. I may walk around wearing fancy ties, but he's indictment. The judge has found that. I'm here to help him, because people that are labeled as nobodies, I will not tolerate it. He needs to be fought for. He is your peer. We need to do this right. Mr. Govan, stand up. Hold your head up high. Mr. Govan matters. You can't do this to people just for political gain, because you got to solve a crime because somebody famous died. It's just wrong. You can sit down. We can't have a society like this where you base convictions on assault rifle people opening up fire on somebody. And you remember when I told you he couldn't even remember when that meeting was, that random meeting? The best thing he could do is remember that the meeting was sometime between when he tried to shoot Wu or somebody else. That's the best he could do as far as that goes. And so you have to believe that this meeting happened. For 3 months nothing goes on, and then one day it just happens. Remember I asked you about pork chops and chicken and all that kind of stuff? If you're going to do something, even if you have a plan and it changes? If you believe any of that, he didn't have any plan. If you have a plan, you have a place to go. You have a place to hide out. You have an alibi built in. None of that happens. None of that happens. And Mr. Cornelius Smith is going to get up here and tell you, I want to bare my soul, I want to come clean, I want to do all this other stuff. You know I call BS on that heart because when he tells you that, and he will, because he's testified to it before, that he wants to bare his soul. He wants to make amends. Then ask yourself, why for 4 years didn't he just take a guilty plea and take his life sentence and start making amends? He still hasn't played anything. His lawyers in negotiations with the government. There's, quote, no deal, but, we do good things out of our heart when we're caught dead, red-handed, murdering somebody, because we don't want any benefit by coming on the stage and telling you whatever you guys want to hear. 6 times with interviews, 6 potentially more times with the government, more interviews. The truth doesn't change. You don't have to remember it. You don't have to practice it. You don't have to rehearse it. It is what it is. And this is not the truth. I think I mentioned it in jury selection, but responsibility for your actions goes both ways. There's going to be a lot lacking in this case. For example, you'll hear about a lot of cell phone records and who may have called who, but the full-on analysis is never, well, I'll just leave that for the expert. It's all coming down to Cornelius and possibly where somebody's phone might have been. You don't know what they said, if they even talked, or if as a friend you're calling somebody after a shooting because everybody starts calling everybody within minutes after this, because social media blew up after this happened. You all know it. You all heard it. Everybody knew about it. Govan is your peer. He deserves better. We shouldn't be here. High-profile TV cameras or not. Sympathy for a young man who's a musician, whatever he was. Nobody deserves to die. But you don't compound the problem by blaming innocent people for it. And even if you don't want to believe he's innocent, you want to believe Cornelius, they sure as heck didn't prove the case beyond reasonable doubt. I talked to you guys about that like the British system. It's either guilty or they didn't prove it. So I'm asking you to at least at a minimum say he didn't prove it in about 3 or 4 days from now. Thank you.
So let's dig. Hernandez Govan, the state finally has the alleged mastermind right here in the courtroom, but can they prove their case? Now keep in mind, he is the alleged mastermind, not an actual trigger man, not saying that he was there involved on the scene, but a person who actually orchestrated, recruited, and brought these actual hitters that led up to the demise of young Dolph at Makita's Cookies. Now, the crazy thing is the defense definitely has a big battle to fight because they are not facing just one indictment, but 2. That alone, they have states cooperating witnesses plus girlfriends and the police that are actually testifying on behalf of the state against Govan. So will the state be able to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, or is it something that the defense will be able to get Govan out? Will the prosecutors actually be able to connect the dots with the key witnesses like Cornelius Smith just to get that final deliverance of justice for young Dolph and PRE, or was Govan really the smartest when it came to the plot and the demise of young Dolph? Also keep in mind all the dots that would actually tie anything back to the head of CMG himself. We're not going to even mention the name, but they've also been depleted and deleted, aka Big Juke. Now Juke may be the alleged person who was there. Govan may be the mastermind, but can they prove this case? Remember, it's hard for dead people to actually speak. Juke's not here, so all of this really boils down to what the state can prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Things for sure. The eyes of Memphis in the hip-hop world are definitely paying attention and watching close. What y'all think? Is Govan the actual mastermind behind the plot? Will the state be able to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt? Or will the defense be able to get Govan out? Y'all jump in the comments. Let me know y'all's thoughts. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed so you don't miss a drop. Hit that notification bell as well. And tap that like button. Whether you're a fan of the case, a fan of trials, young Dolph, CMG, all of the above, hit that like button. Before we get up out of here, man, I also want to say, long live Flipper. Salute to Big Flipper. You know, Memphis will never be the same without Flipper, man. So Memphis lost a great artist. They lost a great talent when they lost the life of young Dolph at the hands of the Memphis Street Beef. Until next time, remember, the greater the height, the greater the weight. And as always, I'm your host, Jay. Y'all jump in the comments, let me know y'all's thoughts. And until next time, y'all stay vigilant, stay safe, stay dangerous. Gone.